Hi, this is Justine, and I am back to catch up on the 12 days of Greene Christmas stories. Unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, namely my phone died, and that is how I make the videos, I had to have a little break in there, so I actually have to do 2 catch-up stories and then tonight's story. So, I'm going to do them, however, as one video per story so that it's still a lot more manageable that way, and I don't, put somebody to sleep through sheer boredom trying to listen to 3 stories all in one video. That being that anyone is actually even watching these. Aside from it perhaps being an interesting video diary for me years from now to remember wonderful stories about my parents and stuff that we did and holidays and family and things like that. Anyway, on to story time. So, and yes, by the way, non sequitur, just in case anyone isn't wondering, that is indeed a dragon sitting over my shoulder. That is Jessel. He is my house dragon. I have had him for years. I adopted him at Dragon Con, appropriately enough, back in 1994. But I digress. Anyhow, on to the first story that I owe you. This is from going back to, I want to say this was around 2004, fallish of 2004. And I had to go down to the Fort Lauderdale area for a follow-up with my surgeon, Dr. Zomstein, and instead of my then husband going with me, I had decided that I was going to take my mom, and we were going to have a girls' weekend. I was going to treat her to a girls' weekend. So Mom and I had fun driving down and listening to music and singing music, and it was the holidays, actually. Now that I think about it, it was the holidays time, because I can remember us singing the Christmas carols on the radio going down and coming back. So, okay, it was a Christmas time, December trip in 2004. So, cool, even appropriate, more time appropriate. Anyway, neat the things that you just suddenly remember when you start talking about stuff, isn't it? And, see, this is why you should record these things every once in a while, since we all have this technology pretty much available on our phones nowadays. Anywho, driving down to Fort Lauderdale, and got down there, got checked into the hotel, and my mom was, she cracked me up. We got into the room, and she was having fun going around, because, I took us to a nicer than average, it wasn't like I took us to the Holiday Inn or something. I took us to one of the nicer hotels down there, and technically it's Weston, Florida, but it's down in the Fort Lauderdale area. And so we were having fun with that, and she was like, "Can I call room service?" And I'm like, "What do you need?" She's like, "I don't know, I just want to call room service because it's been so long since I've gotten to do something like this." And I was like, "Sure, call room service, order whatever you want to, Mom." So my mother called room service just to ask that they bring, what was it she wanted? I remember that she wanted washcloths. That was the one that really struck me, that I thought was pretty funny. That she was calling room service for washcloths within 10 minutes of us walking in the room. And she asked them if they could pick up a couple of chocolate bars and put them on my tab on the way up to the room, which they did agree to do. So we had lovely Hershey's bars and a whole stack of washcloths delivered to our door, all of maybe 5 minutes later. It was great service. My mother was very excited about that too. And then when I asked her, well, what did she want to do for the afternoon, because we had the afternoon to go and do stuff. My appointment wasn't until the next day. And my mom, when we were down there, she's like, "Well, I really didn't expect this room to be nearly as nice as it is." And I was like, that I was going to bring you someplace horrible. And she's like, no, it's just, this is just, it's just so nice. And it's nice to be away and just not having to worry about anything. So I was kind of hoping that it would be okay with you if we stay in the room and watch Oprah Winfrey, because today's going to be Oprah Winfrey's day that she gives stuff to everybody. And I was like, Mom, it's your weekend, no problem. So we drove all the way down to Fort Lauderdale so that I could put us up in a lovely, expensive hotel and then stay in the room and eat Hershey bars and watch Oprah Winfrey on the TV so that we could watch Oprah give away cars and various and sundry things. But it didn't matter because we were with Mom, and I remember one of the things that Oprah Winfrey was talking about on that particular episode were these gigantic chocolate milkshakes that one of the restaurants in New York has apparently become famous for. It's like a hot chocolate milkshake thing. It's just ginormous. And my mom, she was just going off about that. It was like her head was practically going to explode when she saw that, which was really funny because she was never all that into, chocolate. She liked it, but, she wasn't about chocolate. I'm not about chocolate either. Janine, my sister, Janine is that way, but Mom and I not so much. But this thing had Mom just like about ready to book a flight to New York just so that she could have this thing because Oprah Winfrey made it sound so good, and it looked really good on the TV too. So anyway, we actually ended up staying in the room for the rest of the day. We called and we had dinner through room service, ate in the room, and the next day, of course, I had my doctor's appointment, and my mom was funny because she's apologizing to me that that she was, a boring companion, and I was like, no, the point of this was, mother-daughter time, and we had a good time, just chilling, and it was so nice to see my mom just kind of take a breath and relax and just have fun for fun's sake, and just do stuff just because she wanted to, not because anyone was expecting her to. There were no guidelines. The only timeline we were on was that I had a doctor's appointment that I had to go to, and that we were expected back home at a certain point, and that comes into play in a couple of minutes here. So night 2, after the appointment, I ended up taking my mom out for a nice meal at the hotel's hoity-toity restaurant as opposed to like the bar and grill restaurant. And Mom loved it because we were the only ones in the restaurant. So we got really, really exclusive service. I mean, they were like hand over fist, treating us like royalty. It was great. Then we went back up to the room and got a room movie, and again, just wonderful mother and daughter bonding time. It was great, and I loved it. So then the next day we get up and check out and do all the normal stuff that we need to do, and we're gonna drive home. And I was like, well, I've got half a tank of gas. I'm gonna wait until we get out of the city, and then I'll get us gas. And I had done this drive so many times with my husband back then, Chris. He's not my husband anymore. He's someone else's husband now. But that's not pertinent to the story. And I had done it myself on my own a few times as well. But I was not concerned about driving directions or anything. But the difference here that I had not taken into account was that I had never stayed at this particular hotel before. So when I was looking for the exit to get back out of the city, I took the wrong exit, not realizing it. But I took it and then started driving direction-wise, thinking that I had left the city the proper way when I did not. And that really got us turned around. And then we ended up, it started being a search for a sign that said anything about gas, because we ended up driving through land that actually technically belongs to one of the American Indian tribes. So we couldn't stop. There was no gas to be had while we were in that area, and I'm like, we're gonna run out of gas. This is awful. And I just started following signs, trying to find something that said that we were going to get gas. And somehow, some way, I managed to get us to the Everglades. And that is where Mom and I got gas. We were running on fumes at that point. But we bought gas at a really inflated price. At the gas station that was at like a little touristy kind of shack thing in the Everglades. One cool note though was that we did see a Florida panther on the side of the road when we were driving, that was really neat to see. But we unfortunately had to call. Well, I had to call Chris to let him know that I had gotten a little bit turned around and was now in the Everglades. And Chris had no amount of fun laughing at me because he happened to be at lunch. So he shared that with his lunch companion, his friend Russ. And he made point of putting it on speaker so that I could hear Russ laughing at me. Which only amused my mother even more because my mom could hear them because they were on speakerphone in my car. So everybody was laughing at me about the fact that we'd gotten turned around. And then Mom called my dad, and she's like, here, let me hand the phone to Justine. And I was like, no, speakerphone, driving. And my dad's just giving me all kinds of. I'm like, Dad, just leave me alone. I gotta pay attention to the road signs if we're gonna get home at all. And while I was arguing with my father, at somewhere along the way there, I stopped paying attention to where I was, and somehow instead of going north, I went west, and didn't realize this until I was like, alright, we are still turned around, Mom. I'm going to stop at this Cracker Barrel here, because they always have maps, and, they're always really good about, they're always right off of an exit. I'm sure I can get us back where we need to be. And, go in, and Mom wandered the Cracker Barrel store. My mother was kind of addicted to the Cracker Barrel stores. And I went and I asked the lady if I could get a map, and at her guess, how far away were we from Orlando, from this particular Cracker Barrel, since I had gotten a little bit turned around. And she was like, oh, sweetie, you have no idea where you are, do you? And I said, I'm in a Cracker Barrel, and I'm still in Florida, right? I said this jokingly. She said, well, yeah, you're still in Florida, honey, but this is Fort Myers. And I was like, what? So somehow I had managed to not only get us to the Everglades, I managed to get us then from the Everglades across the state to Fort Myers. So we got to call Chris and my dad again to update them on where I was with driving. And I got to be laughed at again by the guys. And my mom was just kind of amused but chilling at this point because it had been a long day. We did eventually make it home. It just took a lot longer, and we sang a whole lot of Christmas carols on the drive home. But then when we pulled up to my folks' house, so I could drop Mom off before I went home, my dad was standing out in the driveway waiting for us because I had called to say, all right, Dad, we're in the neighborhood. We're going to be home. We're going to be at the house in like 5 minutes. So my dad knew approximately when to be standing outside waiting for us. And we pull up, and here's my dad standing with this giant piece of cardboard on which he has written Justine's Everglades Tours. Monday through Friday, mornings and afternoons, no weekends. Inquire within. And my mom started laughing so hard she could get out of the car. I, however, got out of the car, walked up to my dad, and said, you think you're pretty funny, don't you? And my dad's like, oh, no, I know I'm pretty funny. I said, can I see the sign for a second, Dad? And he's like, you having a problem reading? I'm like, no, I want to see your craftsmanship. I want to admire your craftsmanship. My dad hands me the sign. I look at it for a moment. Then I whopped him over the head with it. I'm like, have a nice day, Dad. Collect your wife. I'm leaving. My mom was like, Jerry, stop picking on her. Stop picking on her. She's had nothing but people picking on her all afternoon about the fact that she apparently doesn't know how to drive around the state she was born in. And I was like, you're not helping things, Mom. Stop helping me. Anyway, this became a thing for Dad. I had to drive anywhere on my own or with somebody else. You could almost guarantee that if the trip was going to take longer than an hour, my dad would make some comment about, now, do you know how far we are from the Everglades? Do you know how to get home from the Everglades if you happen to get there? Yeah, just something. There was almost always some Everglades reference. And my dad, like, right up to just like 2 weeks before he passed even was the last time he had made a joke about the Everglades thing. So, it really was something that, it was a day that, of just mistakes and silliness that stuck with my dad and stuck with my mom. Something that they laughed over and had fun with. And so, as annoying as it may have been at the time, I can't regret that I got so turned around, because it was that I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque kind of moment from Bugs Bunny that provided literally years of entertainment for my dad and my mom and anyone else who bothered to listen to my dad at the time. So I didn't mind losing a little bit of face if it meant that Dad got to grin every now and then. And so that's one of the stories that I owe you, but I'm going to end this video now so I can get it uploading, and then I will go on to the next video and get us all caught up. So if you're still watching and listening, thanks very much. I know this one's kind of long since I had the preface, and I'll try not to be so long for the next two. Anyway, thanks, and thanks for helping me honor Mom and Dad with the 12 days of Greene Christmas stories. Bye.